And what about the immigration that came from long since? When somebody tried to change the narrative and gather the strength, and then turn it around and say that somebody is less than or something like that. Welfare is supposed to be something beneficial. No, I'm just saying. I wrap this up in this bag. So I don't know, that person may have a point somewhere. But people, really see what's happening or whatever and finding out like, hold on, I could be a lot better, but I'm better now.
I'll tell you two things about myself that are pertinent to this debate. The first is that I'm a legal immigrant to the United States. By choice.
Other people have all kinds of documents and stuff, but me as a black person, I'm gonna have something. I have something right now.
Why do I take this position? It's because years ago I started reading right-wing reactionary movements and thinkers. I'm thinking of people like, here. Many of the worst off native-born Americans are hurt by immigration, especially immigration from Latin America, because these immigrants, quote, have much less education than the average U.S. worker. They increase the supply of less skilled labor, driving down the wages of the worst paid Americans. She also pointed out that low-skilled immigrants threaten to unravel our safety net. Oh wait, it wasn't Ann Coulter who said that. It was the progressive economist Paul Krugman, writing in the New York Times in 2006. Okay, well, maybe I confused Coulter and Krugman, but I definitely remember the arch-reactionary Pat Buchanan saying, quote, "This country is suffering from immigrant indigestion. It is time to call a halt on this grand rush for American gold, which overfloods the labor market, resulting in lowering the standard of living. The excessive immigration is against the interests of the masses of all races and nationalities in our country." Man, Buchanan's rhetoric could really sizzle, right? No, it wasn't Pat Buchanan who said that. It was Philip Randolph, the African-American labor activist and civil rights leader who organized the 1963 March on Washington, at which Dr. King delivered his I Have a Dream speech. Okay, I'm sure I'll get this next one right. It was Steve Bannon who, during his things in the Trump White House, wrote a policy memo noting that an effectively regulated immigration policy establishes limits on the number of immigrants. Moreover, these limits must be strictly enforceable. And he also said that no unskilled, low-wage migrants should be admitted. Oops, I'm wrong on this last count too. No, it wasn't Bannon who wrote those words. The words come from a 1995 report of the U.S. Commission on Immigration Reform, chaired at the time by Barbara Jordan. Jordan, of course, should be a familiar name to a Texas audience. She was a protege of President Lyndon B. Johnson, the first African-American woman elected to the Texas State Senate since Reconstruction, and the first ever Southern black woman elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Notice the pattern. Today, progressives and pro-business libertarian donors and lobbies, like Nick, frame opposition to mass irregular migration as something that could only be motivated by reactionary racism. But until fairly recently, opposing the importation of low-wage migrants was the consensus position of the Democratic Party and the labor movement. Why? Because an earlier generation of progressives understood that low-wage migration is one of the chief ways by which large employers play nations, populations, and jurisdictions against each other to lower labor costs. It's called corporate arbitrage. Progressives once understood that this kind of migration undercuts the wages of working-class people, strains the social services relied upon by the poorest among us, and hinders productivity growth and thus our prosperity as a nation. In this country, going back to our founding, some employers have always preferred to have workers they can utterly dominate. And that's what you get by admitting millions of people who are completely vulnerable to their employers, who can't speak the language, who lack the power to organize. That's why libertarians and Koch brother types in the Wall Street Journal editorial page have always supported open borders. What's curious about our time is that this has become the progressive position. But maybe it isn't so strange. Fact is, low-wage migrant labor sustains the lifestyles of people in my caste, and maybe some of the people in your class. upper middle class urban knowledge workers who like to pretend we can afford the lifestyles of the old gentry with nannies and gardeners and house cleaners and servants on the cheap. And we can afford such a lifestyle by importing millions of vulnerable, hyper-exploitable workers into the homeland. The difference is the old exploiters were open about what they wanted out of slave or near-slave labor, whereas today's gentry wraps its own advantage-seeking in the garb of humanitarianism. You can support Nick's and Jenks' positions if you wish, but be honest about it. You're supporting mass exploitation. Or you can join Cesar Chavez, Barbara Jordan, Philip Randolph, and many other progressives and labor leaders of the past in supporting tonight's motion. We must shut down the border to corporate arbitrage and exploitation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know about shutting down the border now. I don't know. I'm trying to do some stuff now.
Hey guys, wonderful to be here in Texas with you all.
But everybody had their own opinion,
Who puts Friday?
and I can hear what somebody has to say. I know what I talk about. By me hearing someone else talk is not going to take away from what I have to say.
Is descendants of immigrants.
Or it doesn't necessarily have to add to it
You're
either.
Native American. You started in Central Asia, where my folks also originally started. The Turks went west, you went east, and here you are. On the Mayflower, literally every one of those folks.
Some of that stuff contradicts itself.
Where's your papers? I don't see your papers. You did not.
This is
come here
America
legally. You
debate.
came,
The America debate.
Obviously, different rules of the times. Now, guys, we need immigrants. That
Then said something about
debating.
debating.
100% of us are descendants of
I've tried to
immigrants.
go to different
To say
places
that,
because
no,
they
we're
had
not doing
different
more
debate teams and they were doing
What
somewhere.
preposterous.
I
Only
didn't necessarily
question
know
is,
that there was
how
something
are we
too.
going to do immigration? Not whether
My
we're going to do
goodness.
immigration. By the way, if you think it's a great idea to stop anybody else from coming in or going out and close off, and let's just stay what we are now, this culture is great. Well, good news for you. The Ming Dynasty agreed almost exactly 500 years ago. That's why they burned all their ships to the ground. It was called the treasure fleet. And the Chinese ships at this time were so dominant, they're about 10 times the size of the European ships. And that's why they were economic giants 500 years ago. And after they burned their ships,
And I know I'd rather
clear out
sometime not.
100 years
I know I'd rather sometimes just eat like the vegetables and the fruit and things like that.
solve all from the rest of the world. The recipe for disaster. So let's have a realistic conversation about how to implement immigration. So let's talk about
Two
which of those
viewers.
concerns are
I'm doing
legitimate
what
and
I've
illegitimate.
seen. I'm
So,
trying to
of course,
screenshot it.
you're not
I
gonna be
need to
surprised
do
find out that I
something
think
with
a lot
it.
of it is illegitimate. But I'll surprise you with a couple of opinions. I think some are legitimate. So first of all, on the illegitimate. Oh my God, they're criminals or rapists. Said
And
the guy
sometimes
who was in
I know
91
people watch it
times
after the live video and all that stuff.
proven in
So
court to have done sexual assault. So
But
there's a criminal and a rapist.
I try to
It's the
get
guy
like
who said
different
that.
breads or different
Okay.
things like
Now,
this
but
that
that's
have
just
the
one
most
awful
natural
human
ingredients that are
being.
made from products that
but when you
can
look
properly
at
digest,
law,
that are, capable
It is
of.
a stone cold fact
Um,
that native-born citizens, and if you're in that
being
category,
healthy for
sorry,
me.
but you are the most likely to be criminals. So undocumented immigrants are only half as likely to commit crime as natural-born Americans. And if you're in my group and Sorab's group of documented immigrants, we're the same. We're a quarter. So that, you know what? That means natural-born Americans are 4 times more likely to commit crime than we are. We're just little teddy bears out there, okay? So crime is not true. By the way, the gangs are coming in. You watch Fox News. Oh, they're all gangs, right? MS-13. Well, there's not going to be. And the number of people who are coming in who are coming from gangs are 0.09%. So that's a mirage. It's literally not true that they are more criminal than the average American. So how about jobs? They're taking our jobs. Are they?
Goodness.
We literally have records go on foot.
Boom.
And this is not a partisan issue. Both under Trump and Biden, except for COVID, obviously, we had really good low unemployment. And if they took all of our jobs, how come unemployment is sky high? We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the whole world. They're definitely not taking our jobs. Hey guys, who are you kidding? Did you all just come from a meatpacking plant and they took your jobs?
It's C-SPAN.
No. Did you all just pick lettuce and then come to the Majestic Theater? No, they're taking the jobs that Americans won't do. In fact,
I'm Jasmine Renee Davis.
2006 and on, we're going to get these dastardly undocumented immigrants. They did several raids, and this happens every single time there's a raid. This one was in Stillmore, Georgia. They go and they take out all the immigrants, and guess what happened? The whole town died. It was a small town, about 1,000 people, and once they took out all the undocumented immigrants, the only plant in town collapsed, and the entire town collapsed. They've done that about half a dozen times. That's why they don't do it anymore.
So
Even Trump barely
see
did it,
what I'm saying?
because it's a terrible idea.
It's
So
like
it's
I'm
not
trying to
bad.
take over
So
the whole
legitimate
city.
part
That
is
if so much stuff has happened,
when
what's going to
you
happen?
came to the border
Well,
towns, then it was a mess. And
leadership.
That's not fair to the border towns. And in fact, when Governor Abbott first decided to
having
do the
my
buses in
own,
northern cities, I surprised a lot
knowing
of people
people
on the
need to
air when I
have
said,
their
That's
own.
a really good idea. Politically, it was a really good idea, but on top of that, I said, why should the border states carry
So
all
more
the
people are getting
things?
together and they're saying,
Why
let's
should they
go
also
against somebody else because of what they're doing. And some people are saying,
And if you live in a blue
this
city as
person
I do, and you really
is
believe
making
in
a point.
immigration, then you shouldn't have any problem with it. If you're like, well,
For
you
real.
can't say that.
Not everybody is
Whoa, 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 so
acting
you don't
against
want to
me.
get it, right? So now why am I telling you that when I'm pro-immigration? Because the problem, guys, yeah, I get it. So when you put a whole bunch of new people into a new place, yes, will sometimes crime go up. They don't know where to go, etc. Why though? Is it because of the nature of who they are? We know through the stats that it is definitely not the nature of who they are. It's because we don't have a rational immigration system. You know how many, the immigrants are coming, giant invasions. You know how many immigrants we let in as a percentage of the country every year? 0.2%. It's tiny. If those same people came in a documented way, and we got them, a pathway to jobs, housing, etc., then they wouldn't be milling around in Chicago and New York and the border states, etc. They would do this in an orderly fashion, and I'm way out of time.
You are,
So
and we're going
I've
to wrap
got
it
so
up.
much more to say.
We're going to get into it right now.
Yes, so let's think.
Okay, thank you.
People can know they want to come somewhere where they can learn something and go back to where they are. They can have families or bring them here, go forward to where they come from, or have something here and not be set up for failure and pick all apart and go through all kinds of stuff. And they can learn the position that they are in. It's all sorts of things.
Nostalgia for an imagined past. You talked about how pre-1970 the people were smarter. Maybe
Things
they were
of
taller,
songs
they
and
were
things. That's why a lot of stuff has been taken out of
So
classroom.
speak to that issue. Are you nostalgic for an imagined past, and obviously pick up on any arguments that the opposing side put up?
Well, no, it's just simply
I
a fact.
wonder what the land,
Immigrants weren't
the,
being supported by the welfare state. They went back, and also, I mean,
the land of the free, the land of the free, and the home of the brave.
please don't interrupt me.
So I want to know
They act
what it
like
means.
we're
And
king
sometimes having
communities
that confidence
trying to hold
and,
back time.
you know,
1965
making sure it
was
means
simply
something.
designed to bring in the third world and to stop people.
But when it
dying
affects
who
me, who I am directly,
populated this country, who built this
firsthand,
country.
immediately, there is more of a
Side note,
problem.
I don't know if it makes you all feel
This is
happy
real.
to say we're a nation of immigrants and we're all descended
All
from
sorts of
immigrants.
things
Fine, but it's
have
not true.
somehow happened
Unless
to
you
me.
mean it in the sense that we're all descended from Adam and Eve, so we all came from someplace. You couldn't immigrate here before there was an established society.
I just don't
There
agree
was
with
an
that word,
American
just because I hear it.
established colony, and then it became a country and fought the revolution. And as of 1990, half of Americans still trace their ancestry back to those original Americans. It wasn't America before they got here.
Nick?
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that.
Well, I can throw in another question for you.
Because the fact is 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 people on this panel don't trace their heritage back to the revolution or anything like that. So we trace our heritage back, or Barry and I do, to laws that were passed that kept out our ancestors at a particular moment in time. In 1924, it was over if you were Italian, if you were Jewish. coming from Europe. You weren't coming into the country.
So, and what is your cutoff when you're thinking about an immigrant? Who qualifies?
Look, I don't care if, I'm just saying what this business about we're a nation of immigrants and we're all descended from immigrants. I'm just saying it's simply not true. And yes,
No, but
it was bad that.
True. I mean, that's a defiance of reality.
It was bad that. It was bad that.
People come from all different kinds of ways.
Does that mean we have to wreck our country over this? It's also absolutely 100% not true that immigrants commit fewer crimes. This is fiddling with the numbers.
America is derived from something bigger and an objective of a specific country, and that's why there's independence and things like that, but it's still based off of the, I want to say consistent, but off the objective of a country and the beliefs of property, of royalty, to people grab and do whatever they want to do, and people should make sure that they can hold their head up high and really know what ground is on.
Of immigration. Look at one place, I mean, this is why I wrote Adios America, because the government lies to us. They will not tell us. Just give us a breakdown on immigrants, illegal immigrants, citizens, or legal immigrants, in our prisons, arrested, convicted. They won't tell us that.
Please, people cry and cry and cry. I've been in jail with people that were in jail just because they were from another country, and they don't even know when they ever will get a court day or anything. They even built a jail on it. They want to know who coming over here and what they doing and all kinds of stuff too. So I'm saying, but I'm here, and I have to prove myself.
We would have less crime in America if the Kennedy family had been kept out. I'll try that.
You guys might agree on that issue.
But I want to point out about crime and things like that. First off, even with the recent increases that happened during the pandemic, when immigration stopped in the country, we saw a rise in crime. So you would think illegals not coming into the country.
People get together and they have these forums and they go on TV. Anybody can do these things.
Anne was living in a past. The crime rates in America now are much lower than they were 20, 30 years ago. So to focus on crime when we're talking about immigration seems to be a gigantic red herring.
I would like to put to you guys
It was so
an
weird.
issue
I
that's
was
so
eating
outrageous, which is
pistachios and dark
wage
chocolate and all
suppression,
kind of
because
stuff,
I imagine that you
and I
guys
was in
have
jail.
different perspectives on it.
And
Jake
I
is progressive,
woke up
Nick is
and I hear them
libertarian.
talking about Egypt and all kinds of stuff, how they have recently found out that, and I was eating
of the middle and working classes in this country.
I was eating dark chocolate and pistachios, but I had beets and other things. And they were talking about how healthy and rich dark chocolate and pistachios are. And I found that for myself. I said, somebody knows something about me.
Vegetables are so cheap and our food is cheap
And now I can't even get into the apartment that I was in with my stuff in, including some other things that are there.
Pay people more, and they don't want that. There's a reason why it's broken. Almost everything in this country is because of campaign contributions. And when corporations give money, the politicians do as they're told. And in this case, they're told, don't fix it. So I understand that. But at the same time, what I've seen, and as a progressive, I care a lot about higher wages for Americans, is that none of the fear-mongering came to pass. We did not have huge unemployment. We didn't lose our jobs. The wages were not related to that at all. And you've seen the meta studies, and they show that they're not related. So the things that wages are related to are, for example, is there a higher minimum wage? Does that push up other wages? Corporate power. You see, from 1938 to 1978, productivity in America was sky high, and our wages matched it. It was terrific. Then the Supreme Court legalized bribery and allowed corporate contributions. From then on, your productivity still soars, but your wages flatline. It's because of corporate power. It has nothing to do with immigrants, and in fact, waves and waves of immigrants have absolutely proven that to be the case.
Yes, sir.
I intervene on a couple of things because everyone just vaguely suggested studies, and I just want to go through some of them in a granular way. So I just heard a few things from the other side. One was Americans just won't do certain jobs. Now think about this. sectors where immigrants are most represented, especially illegal immigrants. You're talking about dry cleaning and laundry, building maintenance, apparel manufacture, landscaping.
That is not
private
true.
household
I
work.
know for a fact I watch
Most in
people
each of these
clean
sectors,
and do
migrant
all
labor
kinds of
is
stuff
about
right in my
20%.
own household.
So that means that there are plenty of non-migrant Americans.
Cutting grass,
legal migrants,
mopping
or,
floors,
American
sweeping
domestic
floors,
workers
cleaning all kinds of
working
stuff,
jobs. It is
stuff
not
that
true
people
we won't do that.
probably would not
So
even
when
touch.
farmers, ranchers, and
I know better.
developers complain that they can't
Black.
find American workers, what they mean is they can't find
Why people
American
say,
workers
"Oh,
willing to
I'm
work
good enough
serve
for
work
something,"
conditions.
but they're gonna
So,
try to take something my children can't have, but I have to do something for their other people, children, or sit there and showcase who I am.
Train their H-1B visa replacements and then usher them out of the way. Those people. Those
I'm gonna make sure where I'm
Americans
around
will
is
have
clean, because I know
So,
that that's what
in
I
all
have
the
to have for
areas
who I am, no matter what. I'm not gonna get so
populations,
bent out of
that
shape
includes,
ever,
certain black neighborhoods and places like Appalachia,
because
you
it
will
means
find
something to me.
non-migrants doing the jobs.
I'm
that
not gonna
migrants do in
overbook
high-risk
myself.
areas.
I'm not
It
gonna
is not
overwork
true
myself.
that
I'm not gonna
Americans don't do
overexert
certain
myself
jobs.
or whatever. And if I have to, I know better now.
Okay, one.
I'm not gonna let it disturb me.
He's so prepared. It's like breaking my heart.
And if I am disturbed, then I am disturbed. People have all kind of cute, fancy ways of saying things and doing things too.
As consumers, it's good for us as consumers. So if
These
lowering
people are
prices of
holding
goods
books,
and services,
writing
lower
down
wages,
what they are
including
talking
labor
about,
arbitrage, which is
sitting
immigration,
on
is such a great
C-SPAN.
idea. Why not help all Americans?
And nobody is
possibly
knocking down
lower
their door and
wages?
telling them, because they don't know it by heart and they don't recite it all, every single word all the time, that they have to go somewhere and not be accountable for themselves, and they take all of their stuff. Them people look like they wearing their own clothes and everything.
Consumers. No, that's a statistical trick. Some Americans make gains, but they treat it as gains made by all Americans.
This
If
they
you
stuff
hire
that they
a
look like
serf
they might be
to
saying,
clean
and
your
even
house
if
at a
they
discount
aren't,
rate,
they're
how do
saying
I,
what they
as a
want
consumer in
to
general,
say.
benefit from that? You're
And
the
they
one
have
who
got
got their
together
house cleaned
and
at
they're
a discount
sitting
because of
there
vulnerable migrants.
appreciating one
So why
another
don't we
from
generalize
whatever
the
background. Them
hardest
people
workers?
are not
That
agreeing
means
on
some
everything
class of workers,
together.
and as the non-college majority that are
Each of
most
them
at
are
risk
from
by
different places,
illegal immigration
from
and
magazines
offshoring.
and
Those
all
are
kinds of
customers that are
different
most at
places.
risk from these practices. If we generalize the benefits as consumers, why don't we generalize how we think about the harms to those classes, the non-college majority in this country?
Okay, one of the things that I'm surprised.
If I may, yes, where
People go into these settings and they are who they are. And they have something, and they have to find their way to come through in their lessons that they are learning from tests and different education and resources from someone else's thoughts, contemplation, and other things.
you help them retrain
Their beliefs.
certain types of bonus payments.
I do not have to lose myself in other things that I do to make sure I know something.
Ask them, why do they come here? Why do illegal people, we're not even talking about legal people, and Jimmy John's, by the way, the sandwich
People
shop
believe
in Texas is paying
that
people
they
$20 an hour
believe
to make
in stuff.
sandwiches. That
And
is not
sometimes it's
slavery,
quite
that is
the
not servitude, that is not
rudeness.
anything terrible.
And sometimes
you
it's
can
just
ask
so
about
beautiful
illegal
or
immigrants
whatever.
who come to the border, they get
Especially
caught, they get sent
if
back
somebody
to
is
Mexico.
doing
They come
is
back
just
again,
being
they come back
behaving
again.
themselves
But
and
they're
just
coming
being
back
good
again
and
because they
listening.
want to be
And there are
exploited,
people who
and they
are
want to live in
strong
poverty, or
and don't have to
because
worry
what
about
they
any of
have
that
in
because
America
people
is
have it
better
together,
than
and that's
they
why
are
it is
not
important.
exploited. They are building a future for themselves. And it is
Anybody
not
convince me to
made
get up in their bed and all that different stuff and do all kinds of stuff, and then I have to work for me.
Yes, if you have conditions in which you're surviving on $1 or
And
less
if I
than $1 a
choose
day,
to go
of course,
take it
whatever
and be there with somebody, believe that I'm gonna know that for generations and generations to come, it's gonna be not only noble but intelligent and fruitful and wealthy and resourceful and skilled and brilliant and all that. Because I mean something to me, and I'm not gonna make a fool of myself. My name matter, and I have stock in this, and I have put into this in so many ways.
I'm shocked that this far into the conversation, national security came up in no one statement.
And that's not
one of
all
the
that
things
matters.
That is, well, one of the things that's known is that people are coming through the Darien Gap from
Some
all
things
over
are
the world.
serious and some
They're
things
coming
are
from
not
China,
all that
they're
serious,
coming
but
from Russia,
most things are to
Syria,
me
they're coming
serious.
from Egypt, they're coming from Mauritania, they're coming from everywhere. And we don't know where those people are. How much of a concern is that for those of you on the stage? Maybe Jake, let's start with you.
Zero, none.
Why?
Okay, so let's talk about.
I have to be in everybody's business and everybody matters, but you need to know what's up. Have your own. I have my own. I want my own.
You heard me, right?
Too, I can be neighborly with somebody or something like that and communicate with somebody on the level.
There was a prayer rug. There's a Muslim guy coming. First of all, what does that even mean? So there's a Muslim guy coming in. Why don't you just tell me you're a bigot? Like, I'm not saying you guys. I'm saying
So much money is put out for all kinds of different situations, and yet, you know, I have to get things for myself. And sometimes it's one day at a time.
To my knowledge, zero. Zero. Okay, you know how many people have done mass shootings in America? Tons and tons and tons. Are we kidding ourselves? The mass shootings that happen every single day, the massacre after massacre, and yes, that's all of us, the people that live in America. There's not this demagoguing about national security is nonsense. If you're talking about national security and giving away...
What are you talking about?
The real threats are super rich. They come on planes. They're spies. A Chinese... Look, it's bipartisan. The Chinese spy who slept with Eric Swalwell. The Chinese spy... True.
That, by the way, is work that an American won't do.
And by the way, the Chinese spy that was caught at Mar-a-Lago. All you got to do is walk into Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, now James says he has zero concern for national security. And Sora, I want to jump in.
Well, I have a few terrorist attacks that were done by immigrants. 9/11, the Orlando.
Did they come across the border? That's not true at all.
Go ahead, Ann.
Again, who was talking there? I don't care if they came across the border. San Bernardino. Oh, and by the way, it's hard to figure these things out because one of the San Bernardino
And sometimes people gotta go and they
nightclub
watch
terrorists
their children
was
go and
born
fight
in
and
America.
go to other countries and do all kinds of stuff and hope that they survive. And a lot of times our babies make it. But right here, we're for the country that they fighting for and the country that they are serving. They barely can even get a book. While them same people, children, have all kinds of books and all kinds of real estate and all kinds of stuff. And our babies sit there trying to wear other people's hair and all kinds of shit to look like something. You gotta have all kind of nails to hide what's really happening. Some people like it. So I'm not wrong about what I'm saying. But I have heed. I take heed. I know something. And I'm not hating at all.
Literally nothing.
But when somebody sees that something is instilled in somebody, and right away,
You were talking about national security concerns on the southern
and why? Because some people want to tell somebody I have to have this and have to have that and all that. You don't have to have all that.
They flew first class.
My hair is thick and beautiful and strong and long. Ain't nobody gonna sit up there and police officer argue with me and tell me that I have short hair. Okay, I'm not the only person that you might identify that with, but my hair is not short. And you're not gonna tell me that other people hair longer than mine and you don't know anything about me. But that's the narrative, and that's what people have, and that's what they believe. They have no understanding, no clue when they look at me, because more people that's black women have such short hair. So how are these black women and these black girls, these black men and these black boys, these black people supposed to feel when somebody is already saying that they're ahead just because they have longer hair?
Go straight to your opening statement, Barry, which is...
Or they have more money and they can keep up with the books, or they can do this, or they at the top of their class. When these men have seniority in places and get paid way more.
And they didn't come across the border, and
But that's not always the case, because there's some strong black men that are successful and are continue to be successful, and more are coming. And it don't always have to be on a tugboat or on an airplane. Some people walking right, standing on their own 2 feet too as well.
Canadian, by the way.
It's just all kinds of things that are being said that is important. Not everybody need to push somebody else's narrative to have some people are write their own books on their own experience, and they ain't never heard anything about anybody else's families or whatever. They had their own stuff.
Right now, we haven't had cases of people coming through the southern border endangering the homeland.
I have my own, but I know what is happening around me, and it has contributed a great amount of things.
In other words, if the security threat that is incipient at the
And I can speak it if I'm outside and in the public and not somewhere I can speak like this. I shouldn't have somebody approaching me and attacking me and telling me that I can't speak what I want to speak.
Suggested that we should bring people in that are better than us.
This is serious.
Better looking, higher IQ. Trump said something sort of similar a few days ago. He talked about how we should bring in people from nice countries.
I heard so many times, get in where you fit in, check yourself before you wreck yourself. That stuff holds something.
Well, I mean,
it's true.
Not considered white. Sora, you come from a country, Iran.
People go to school, people learn all kinds of things, but I guarantee, make sure, I have to make sure, but make sure whatever school it is, there is something that can be identified with, and not just walking and just grabbing some kind of degree because somebody's handing one out. It's like going into another family or working a job, because you're going to make sure that you are there. You're going to continue to give money. You're going to support things, and you're going to be there. That's alumni and all kinds of different things. You are going to care and nurture, and one day maybe you can be at the top or the bottom or right wherever. Some people afford that, and some people have to know. Some people buy shoes and all kinds of stuff, not knowing that they can put money into those shoes that they buy and own those companies and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I wear things this is supposed to be some universal thing or some science. I don't know. I gotta look more into it. But just because somebody put some label on it, I'm supposed to wear it and not know what I'm wearing or who name I'm wearing. Or somebody say, well, Tommy Hilfiger don't like black people or whatever. Well, why? Shit, know what kind of shoes you put on your feet. Know what kind of clothes you wearing. Don't run your shit down. And if you want to, it's your motherfucking money. And ain't nobody, if somebody see that you are buying up shit and that's the majority, how could you possibly hate on some motherfuckers that's supporting you? Why? Because you do what you want to do with your stuff. But that does not matter. Do what you have to do. Go where you want to go. I'm not hating. Perhaps one day, I don't know who Tommy Hilfiger is or whatever. But I just use it as an example. It's my conversation and what I am saying and trying. My goodness. Jasmine Renee Davis.
We had a fabulous story in the Free Press a few weeks ago by Olivia Reingold that talked about 7
I'm healthy.
lawsuits being brought in the city